We're going to have a fun day today. We're checking out Headlander. Greg Rice is at the controls. He will actually be controlling a head in the game. And this is Lee Petty. He's the project lead on this title. What is this game, man? It has the best title I've seen so far in 2016.
Yeah, the title explains it all. Well, it's a side-scrolling action-adventure game, and it's set in the future, but our future is inspired by 70s science fiction.
Right.
So you can think of movies like Barbarella and Logan's Run and that sort of vibe.
Silent Running.
Silent Running is definitely an influence. And it's a world of automation dominated by an evil computer entity, and humanity lives in fiberglass bodies instead of their organic ones, except for you, the player. And you play the last organic human being in the galaxy, but you're just ahead.
Okay, very cool. I love the super synthy psychedelic music that we have in here.
Yeah.
Can you take us into this, Greg?
Let's do it.
All right, so we are about to fly into space. Is it all set in space, the entirety of the game?
It is. The game takes place over a variety of spaceships and space stations. You do actually go to the moon at one point without revealing too much, but they're all connected.
Okay.
So it's a type of game that you can explore and retraverse and do extra side missions as well as go through the primary.
Now, does this head have amnesia? Because that would be so sad.
We're sort of seeing the start of the game here, and what we find out as a player is that you can't quite tell if the character has amnesia or not because the character can't talk because he has no lungs.
Oh,
He's just
right,
a head.
right.
So the character definitely looks perplexed in the first part of the game,
Yeah.
and we sort of tell a story a little bit differently without the main character being able to speak. And so the player can kind of assume that the character can't remember much. And the character's past is something that the players get to discover over the course of the game.
Okay, so there's a mystery at the beginning of all this. Okay, and so now we are seeing. Do we know the character's name?
We don't at this point, and in fact, the player can choose from a variety of different heads that they want to play. So right now we have a male and female head, and we'll be adding more as well. So you can kind of pick your experience a bit as you play through the game.
Okay, now, Greg, you guys worked with Adult Swim to put this together. Was this their story, or was this your project that you took to them?
No, yeah, this is entirely Lee. Lee's writing this one and designing this one, and it's a new IP that we're creating alongside them.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what's it like working with a big, basically a cartoon company that's really moving into the video game space in a big way?
They've been great. They've been really great. They're, you sort of used to in the past, maybe let's say working with some publishing partners, and I'm like, well, let's pitch them the strange part of the game and see how they react to it to know how far to push them.
Yeah.
And I'll say so we're going to have this area of the level where we have a bunch of robots in shag carpeting, fondling it and remembering what it was like to live. And they're like, great. No, there's really I've never hit a wall with them where I've gone too far.
There is nothing too weird for them, is there?
It doesn't seem like. I mean, I'm not intentionally trying to break that barrier with them, but they've been very creatively supportive and a great partner to work with. Yeah.
Now, Lee, did you come up with the concept for this entirely on your own, or were you bouncing stuff off of your colleagues here, or someone at home? Like, how did this all get invented? Yeah.
Well, I mean, the initial idea was mine, and as with all the projects here, we're really collaborative with the team. So all of the team has contributed to and enhanced and expanded the original idea. But I think the origin for me is that I just had such a love of 70s science fiction.
Yeah.
And I liked it because really it was kind of dystopian, but in a kind of disco facaded way,
Yeah.
And that sort of naive take on the future of technology and humanity when seen today is just so charming and funny. But at the same time, there's a little touches of existential, what becomes of humans in this sort of world that I love too. And
Right. I mean, they were really questioning it back then about the 2001: A Space Odyssey, about the formation of artificial intelligence and what that's going to mean for our future, our cohabitation with robots. And I guess you get pretty deep in a side scroller like this, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's, I sometimes think of the charm of 70s science fiction is both of those things we talked about, the sort of existential nature of the core message or the subtext, but also just how stupid they are.
Yeah.
And I wanted both those things in this game. So we have these ridiculous situations you can get into as just a head.
Yeah.
And that, the premise is odd.
Yeah.
But really what's going on underneath that is like those movies really questioning our relationship to technology and maybe taken to an absurd level to make it a little more comical, but still there.
I love that Double Fine just can't make a 2D platforming game with a squirrel or something like that. You guys you have to make it crazy, right? That's the idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the fun part. Is there like, for me, my background is an artist in art direction, and I think imagining what a world could be like, if like these elements were taken to kind of an absurd level, but the people within that world just sort of, it's normal to them. You just treat it straight.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of like a fun exercise to go to.
I mean, really, that's what video games sort of give you guys, the license to just be as absurd and insane as you want to go, right? There are no limits.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's a medium that really lends itself to that, especially when you're in this sort of situation and the main character can't talk. You don't kind of go, well, why isn't this person asking what happens here? Well, you don't know what they're thinking, and that invites you to sort of project what you're thinking onto the character, and that sort of interactivity is to me some of the magic.
All right, Greg, give us some of the mechanics. What are some of the things that you could actually do in this title?
Yeah, well, you've seen a little bit of it. So the main one is launching your head, right?
Yeah.
And you're able to reattach your head to any of the bodies in the world, and a lot of bodies have different abilities. Like this one has a broken laser, which is not very helpful, but others have had double shots and things.
Okay.
We just learned the role, and we use that to kind of get through this area.
Okay.
And this is kind of the first area of the game, so you're kind of seeing them as we're unfolding. So here's melee as well.
Are you always on, humanoid type robots throughout this title, or do you get to jump onto like spider bots and things like that too?
Yeah, there's definitely a big variety of different things you can attach to.
Okay.
And so even in what we're going to see today, we've got I guess I described it as an angry little Roomba vacuum cleaner that you get to attach to and ride through a hidden part of the ship.
Okay. That's very Metroid-esque.
Yeah.
Were there game influences like Metroid and stuff like that sort of played into the core design and the map construction and stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Metroid, Castlevania, most people recognize those as Metroidvania right now,
Yeah.
and I think there were aspects of that I really liked. And what we sort of did was try and keep the game structure pretty open, so that you can accomplish your goals in multiple ways. And although there's a sort of primary through line, because we wanted to do some specific storytelling, there's a lot of retraversal and exploration and going back, and that's sort of some of the classic Metroidvania game structure. So we definitely take that, and then the other sort of the big focus is the duality between the body and the head. They both can do different things. Like only bodies can open doors, but the head can fly through vents, and the head is the main character. So you get to upgrade it over the course of the game and let you get into new areas like a Metroidvania game would.
Can the robot bodies ever go bowling with your head?
Maybe. Usually you're in control, so we do some pretty absurd things with the head, but I don't think we've done bowling yet.
Okay, all right.
Not yet.
There's still time.
There's still time.
All right, there's still time. So you get into laser fights. Who are you fighting? What's happening?
So you are, when you sort of start the game and you're on this ship and you're trying to get off the ship, and you learn about Methuselah, which is the name of our evil computer entity who's after you. And he's got squads of shepherds, as he calls them, which are sort of the police force of the future. And that's what these characters are. And they're trying to capture or kill you. You're not really sure yet. And because they're robots...
Are they the force that killed all the humans? Am I spoiling something?
The humans are still in the game.
Oh, okay.
And you haven't met them yet, but they have left their organic bodies and inhabit imposter bodies.
Oh, wow.
So they're still there, but they have had their free will kind of clamped down with something called the Omega Gem.
Right.
So their emotional response is limited, and they are sort of managed and regulated by this shepherd force and the computer.
Did you discover the story for this in a very 70s type of way, like going out into the mountains with some peyote, or how did this all come together?
That's a really good question. I'm really terrible at answering. Like, where did this idea come from? There was no peyote involved. There's no peyote. I think it really, like I said, just came to the idea that I really wanted you to be flying around like a head, like a little lunar lander. And then a lot of the ideas came from there. We're like, well, how could you shoot someone's head off and then take control of their body? And we're like, well, what if they were a robot, right? If they were a robot, their body would just freeze vertically, and then you could take it over. And we're like, well, and then that starts to lead to theories of like, well, where have all the people gone?
That's awesome.
And then what's the backstory? How did this computer take over humanity? And those are all things that, rather than explicitly tell the player them, we let the player discover those by talking to people, by digging through databanks, by headlanding into a variety of things and getting some of the backstory. We're in the game here. We're watching we talked about non-humanoid characters, so we've got these little vacuum cleaners called the Electrosucks as their name, and they're they're like a lot of Double Fine side characters. They've got their own little stories. So these guys are angry little vacuum cleaners that are afraid they're being replaced by automated centralized sucking systems. So you can take over them, and that opens up different routes for you in the game. So you can, there's like the little area you can drive through, and this is an area that you can only get in with these guys. But you could have taken a different way back, right? You could have used your head and fought guys, activated elevators, etc. But
was there ever an idea to go 3D with the game and sort of go right into the world, or was it a 2D design right from the beginning?
Well, I think it was primarily 2D because one of the other core mechanics is the lasers, and lasers in our game aren't just really like art swaps for bullets. They actually bounce.
Okay.
So when you are in a body like this sort of red shepherd body here, the lasers bounce once, and you can see our bounce lines can get kind of crazy there.
Okay.
And so you use it to solve puzzles, not just fight combat. And it grows over the course of the game. So when you're in a red body, which is the weakest body, they bounce once. An orange body, they bounce twice. Yellow, they bounce 3 times. Green, 4, and so on. So we kind of go up the color of the spectrum as enemies ramp up, and your bodies and lasers get crazy. And as this relates to 2D, is planning laser bouncing is much easier from a side view, right?
So he's off in an escape pod, so now we are actually going into space a little bit.
Yeah, so what we're doing here is we're escaping from the ship.
It's a giant cock and balls is what I've just... Is it not?
Well,
It's a big dick ship. That's it. Come on.
What? Yeah. Well, that's one of the 70s influences. There's a lot of fertility symbols, shall we say, in 70s science fiction.
Okay. All
So,
right. Okay.
so yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're not above that.
Okay.
Or below that.
Is that the demo? That was it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's very cool. So when does this game come out?
We are coming out this year. I was about to say in 2016. We're in 2016.
We are in 2016.
So it'll be in the second half of 2016, and we're going to be on Steam and PS4.
Okay, cool. And is it like a $20 kind of experience? $40? What can people expect to kind of save? How much they got to put in the piggy bank?
We haven't really discussed pricing, but I would think that it would be in the sort of $20 bracket. It's a downloadable game, so yeah.
Okay. Very cool. And has Adult Swim talked about anything more? Animated stuff at all? Or anything to kind of get us into the head space of Headlander?
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure we're ahead of the competition in this regard, but no.
Come up with one now.
I can't do any better than that.
Okay.
Yeah, Greg goes to the head of the class in other ways. So
Okay,
no,
he does,
we actually haven't discussed.
We're gonna head out of here,
Yeah,
right?
that's nice. Well, hopefully, Headlander winds up being a franchise and cross-media experience for everyone, and there isn't just one.
Ah, very nice.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
nice. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you.
Very nice. I can't wait to play this thing.
Thanks, man.
Thank you. Hey, thanks for checking out that video on our EPN channel. It's just one small part of the things that we make around here. So if you liked it, don't forget to check out some of our other vids and hit that subscribe button.